Welcome, dear. Thank you for joining me, your hostess Thrilly. I'm happy to host you at any time. I suppose it's sort of what you can say I live for. Comfortable? I hope so. However, you may not be for long after this story. Now, relax as I relate to you the events of a tale called Scream in a Box by Lifeisstrangemetoo. I'm afraid I have some terrible news.
What is it, honey?
Dean looked over at me worriedly from the driver's seat. I paused dramatically. I have to pee.
Now? You're joking, right?
Yeah, I'm joking. Because I have to pee is such a great punchline. Dean half chuckled, half groaned.
Remember the last road sign? The next town isn't for 60 miles.
Then turn around.
I'm not going to turn around and drive 20 miles in the wrong direction. Look, I'll pull over here and you can go on the side of the road.
Sorry to break it to you, Dean, but I can't pee standing up like you can. If I could, I don't think we'd be married. Dean laughed.
You think that I'd stop loving you just because you had a penis? You really think I'm that shallow? Here,
he said, handing me an empty Gatorade bottle. I cocked an eyebrow. What is this for? I said, hoping he wasn't going to say what I thought he was.
You know, to go in.
I stared at him silently.
What?
He said, the ghost of a smirk creeping across his handsome features. Oh, nothing, I replied. I'm just wondering if I could concentrate hard enough, if I could make your head explode. Dean laughed again, this time a little louder.
Maybe you should try concentrating on finding a place to pee. Then one might appear magically on the side of the road.
Maybe I will. I closed my eyes and held out my hands in mock meditation. Oh, great spirits of the grateful bladder, I began in a mystical sort of voice. We pray to you in these dark and troubled times, that you may show us the path to true righteousness, that you might provide us with a place to relieve our souls of their wearisome burdens, and our bladders of their wearisome fullness. Dean laughed so hard that he swerved a little. When he was done wiping the tears from his eyes, he pointed to a spot on the horizon.
Looks like your prayer's been heard, honey,
he said. Sure enough, I looked to where he was pointing and saw a building ahead. Dean took the exit, but as we got closer, I could see that it looked like the kind of place where you put 3 layers of toilet paper on the seat before sitting down to pee. If somebody had magically enlarged a run-down wooden shack to the size of a small warehouse and then sprinkled it with cobwebs and garbage for good measure, then it would look like this place. There was a crooked wooden sign on the front that read, Oddments and Curiosities, in peeling white paint. Once we pulled into the lot and saw the garbage up close, we could make out that it was mostly rusted-out appliances. But there, by the front door, sat a pile of dirty and dismembered doll heads. What the fuck? I mouthed to Dean. But he was already unbuckling his seatbelt excitedly. He loved places like this. It says, they keep the spirit of the road alive, which is a poetic way of saying that he has a morbid fascination for weird and creepy shit. We got out and went inside. If the outside of the place was dirty, the inside looked like someone had set off a garbage bomb. Most of the stuff was old, rusted, or broken, and the signs above each of them were coated in black grime that made them impossible to read. There were long wooden canes that were topped with little replicas of shrunken heads, keychains with bits of animal bone on them, and little glass orbs that looked a little too much like real eyeballs. All kinds of horrible-looking stuff. Dean looked like a kid in a candy store, so I left him to wander the aisles while I found the bathroom. I had just finished up when I heard it. A terrible, visceral wail that sounded more animal than human. I yanked up my pants and ran outside to find Dean standing next to a large display of what looked like black shoeboxes, grinning like a big kid who just won a new toy.
"Honey, look,"
he said, pointing to the yellow plastic sign that hung over the display. I could barely make out the words through the grime. "Scream in a box." Dean nodded.
"I'm gonna wrap it up and give it to my brother when we get there,"
he said, grinning.
"He's gonna hate it."
"Okay," I said. "But let's buy it quick and get out of here. This place gives me the creeps." Dean took one last wistful look at the items around them before agreeing.
"Yeah, alright,"
he said, somewhat sadly. We made our way up to the counter, but there was no one there, not even when Dean called out for someone.
"Did you see the price tag?"
he asked. I shook my head, so Dean shrugged, pulled out a $20 bill, and set it on the counter.
"Alright, let's go,"
he said. When we got into the car, Dean handed me the box, and I was surprised to find it was no heavier than an ordinary shoebox. "How does this thing work then?" I asked. "Does it take batteries?"
"No clue."
I held the box up to my ear and shook it gently. I could hear something rattling inside. "What's inside?" I asked.
"Nothing,"
he said, pulling out of the lot and getting us back on the road. I shook the box a little harder, and a chill went down my spine. It sounded like the box was crying? "There's something not right about this box, Dean."
"What do you mean?"
"Listen," I said, shaking it more vigorously this time and holding it up to his ear. It wasn't crying this time that greeted our ears, but a woman's voice. "Please, why are you doing this to me?" There was no answer.
"What the fuck?"
I heard Dean swear under his breath. I shook the box again, but there was nothing. I heard a deep voice in my ear.
"I know you're listening,"
it said.
"Would you like to join us?"
I couldn't help what happened next. I threw the box on the ground and began stomping on it like it was a cockroach. And every time my foot made contact, it would scream, louder and louder until it felt like needles were stabbing into my eardrums. And then, the blood began to pour, bursting out in spurts and soaking the floorboard. The tires screeched as Dean slammed on the brakes, and the car came to a halt. He scooped up the box and hurled it out the open window, and then slammed on the gas. I could hear the screams growing fainter and fainter behind us as we sped away. For the next 3 hours, neither one of us dared to break the silence. I took off my blood-soaked shoes and put them in our road trip garbage bag. When we had almost arrived, Dean got a call from his mother. He pushed the hands-free call button on the steering wheel, and her voice came through the car speakers. "Oh, Deanie, thank God you answered," she said worriedly. "Where are you two now?"
"We're right outside the city limits. Why, Mom? What's going on?"
"Oh, it's terrible, Deanie. We just saw it on the news."
"Saw what?"
I could see Dean clenching his jaw, and I began to feel sick to my stomach. They found that missing girl Abby Johnston on the side of the road.
They did.
Dean's knuckles went white on the steering wheel, and blackness started creeping in at the edges of my vision. Oh yes, it's horrible. So young and to die like that. It's just too terrible to think about it.
How did she die?
Dean's voice was beginning to shake, and I felt as if I was falling. They said her body was covered in shoe prints and road rash. Dean's mom went on in a low voice. They said it looked like someone had stomped all over her and threw her out of a moving car. I could hear tires screeching as if from far away, and darkness began to glide over my vision in a solid black line, like a lid sliding over a box. At least they had an eventful and memorable trip. Not likely something they will forget anytime soon. As ever, there's no rest for the wicked. And I have matters that need attending to. So, I must bid you farewell for the moment. Oh, feel free to use the facilities here if you wish before you leave. It could be a worthwhile precaution. Otherwise, safe journey, friend.